Okay, let's unpack something that I think feels uh, really relevant to pretty much anyone. Today, we're going to look at this concept called invincible thinking.
Yeah, and it sounds like a superpower, doesn't it? But it's actually a very, a very grounded psychological framework.
Right.
We're looking at this stark contrast between two ways of seeing the world, the conventional view versus this idea of invincible thinking.
And the mission for us here is pretty focused.
Yeah.
We want to see how just changing your perspective, I mean, literally just the angle you look at something from, can turn a negative into a real positive,
It all comes down to hardship as an obstacle versus hardship as a catalyst.
which is a huge distinction.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, the default setting for most of us is that conventional view.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the framework we're looking at calls it seeing hardship strictly as a painful obstacle.
And that makes total sense, right? Who wants to run into a wall? The natural instinct is to just, back away.
Right. It defines those setbacks as negative experiences to be avoided, but that's the real trap. Well, if your primary goal is just to avoid pain or failure, you actually start shrinking your life. You stop taking risks because you're terrified of the sharp edges.
You're just playing defense. But this invincible thinking idea, it completely flips the script. It stops looking at hardship as a stop sign and starts looking at it as a catalyst.
And a catalyst is just something that accelerates a reaction. So instead of avoidance, this framework argues that the friction is actually necessary for any movement forward. It gives us three pillars for how this works.
Okay, so let's break down that first one, confronting challenges.
Mm.
It's one thing to call it a catalyst, but how do you actually do that? How do you flip that switch?
This is the mechanic of it. It's not just about, having grit. The argument is that avoidance actually atrophies your character.
Atrophies, like a muscle.
Exactly like a muscle. If you don't have the resistance, you can't build strength. It's a very direct cause and effect.
So by avoiding the problem, you're actually denying yourself the very strength you need to solve it. You have to actively engage.
Precisely. It's the difference between waiting for the storm to pass and learning how to walk through it.
Yeah.
And that logic leads right into the second pillar, which uses a metaphor that's, well, it can be a little jarring. It calls hardship food for the soul.
Okay, wait. I get the strength part, the resistance building muscle, but
Mhm.
food for the soul. I mean, usually when I think of hardship, I think of poison, something toxic you want to get rid of.
It is a strange phrase at first, but if you look at the framework, food implies nutrition. It implies that without this specific struggle, there's a nutrient your character is missing. So
Hmm.
you aren't just surviving the bad times, you're actually metabolizing them into wisdom.
So if I'm avoiding the struggle, I'm actually starving my own potential.
That's the invincible logic, yes.
Mhm.
You're metabolizing the difficulty.
Which brings us to the big why. I mean, if we're fueling up, what are we training for? And the third pillar calls this soul training.
And this is probably the hardest pill to swallow for some people. It suggests that we are meant to experience difficulties, that hardship isn't a bug in the system.
So that completely challenges the idea that a good life is an easy life. If you see a problem as some kind of error, you feel like a victim. You ask, why is this happening to me?
Exactly. But if you view it as soul training, then the difficulty becomes the required regimen. It's the workout plan designed specifically to develop the parts of your character that are maybe a little weak.
You can't get the development without the training.
You can't. So invincible thinking isn't about pretending that pain doesn't hurt. The thorny rock is still thorny.
It's not about denial.
No, it's about classification. You stop classifying the pain as a sign to stop, and you start classifying it as the workout itself. You move from being a passive victim of your circumstances to an active participant in your own growth.
It reframes the whole crisis. It's no longer a stop sign. It's the gym.
That's it, exactly. And if you apply that, you stop wasting all this energy wishing things were easier, and you start using that energy to get stronger.
So before we wrap up, let's leave everyone with something to think about, a challenge based on that soul training idea.
I think we should. So if you take this idea seriously, look at the biggest headache or struggle in your life right now. If that isn't some random accident, but is actually a specific workout designed for your character, what specific strength is it trying to build in you?
That definitely puts a new light on a bad day. Thanks for listening to this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.